For our show this week, we have been asked to talk about Booster Gold. Let me try that one more time. For our show this week, we have been asked to talk about Booster Gold Volume 1 52 pickup as commissioned by our good friend Keith over on Patreon. Keith was nice enough to back us at a certain level in order to commission an episode, and you too can back us at that level if you go to patreon.com/IRCB podcast. But Keith said he wants us to read Booster Gold Volume 2, number 1 through 6, 52 pickup. His reasoning for why we were going to do this is, I don't know if that you've ever discussed my favorite superhero, and the trade was recently republished by DC. I know Kara and Danny have some DC history, but I'd like to know how they and Mike feel about, quote, the greatest hero you've never heard of. And quite honestly, I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I think I want to toss over to Kara really quick to give us maybe a little bit of like background on this character, because if I'm not mistaken, you might have some very strong feelings about this era in DC's comics continuity, but why don't you take it away?
So, first of all, Keith, how dare you? Because I had to look. This book came out when I was at like the peak of reading DC Comics for me. Like, opening this book, my brain was instantly like, all right, let's set the scene. It's sophomore year in college. You're pledging a sorority. Transformers are your entire life when you're not thinking about High School Musical. I'm just like picturing me like spreading all these fucking 52 issue DC comic books, and like this is right before I got disillusioned about events and when I was still buying everything. So I can tell you with certainty, I definitely read this book back in 2008, but yeah. I did not remember anything about it going in. And of course, reading it, I'm just like, this fucking thing is just Justice League International all over again. And I went and reread it, and I was right, down to them referencing the whole like, oh, Booster Gold, why are you trying to get... I'm getting ahead of myself. So Booster Gold is... I actually first met Booster Gold watching the TV show Justice League Unlimited. He had an episode that was very memorable. It was just a very well done episode. Booster Gold is a superhero from the 25th century, and he is a bum from the 25th century who like robbed a museum for their superhero gear and then went back in time so that he could be famous and like come up with endorsement deals. And he's like such an unbelievably 80s character.
Yeah. Someone had just watched Back to the Future and said, what if superheroes?
Yep. So he's part of the starting lineup, more or less, of Justice League International, which is a lineup of the Justice League that was created for nefarious reasons in the 80s. So you have to like put your mind back to like Cold War, Reagan era, height of the AIDS epidemic. A lot of feelings and stuff and happening, and into this complicated world. DC villain, not at the time, but later we would find out he was a villain. Spoilers. Max Lord, businessman, like wearing the bold stripe, like Gordon Gekko Greta's Good shirts and suits and everything, is just like, hey guys, what if we formed a superhero team? And for some reason, Batman lets this happen, which I find the most out of character thing Batman did in this whole book. Anyways, so Booster Gold is part of this constructed lineup of Justice League members, and I'm not going to spoil the series because everyone should read it, but as I said on the first half of our show, the characters and actions in Justice League International kept reverberating through DC, because DC does this like circle jerk thing where they just cannot let things go, and that was on full display in this series. This series takes place after the events of the 52 comic book series, which was a weekly comic book event leading out of Infinite Crisis, which was a follow-up to Crisis on Infinite Earths, because DC just can't let things be alone. They have to keep referencing their own stuff over and over again. And I put a really great word in the doc. I did hagiographic. This is a hagiographic like rendition. It's just let's just make the fans think all of our old shit is all still important. And so after 52, in which many of the characters from Justice League International, again, a series from the 80s, and 52 was in like 2008, still relevant. We find out that Booster Gold is like not a total schmuck. Like he can save the world and do things, and he
Yeah.
gets involved with some time travel stuff with Rip Hunter, time traveler extraordinaire, which is like Doctor Who but without the woo-ness. And look,
Uh-huh.
look. So I wish I didn't have to explain so much to go into this book, but like this book that we read for this show, Booster Gold 52 Pickup, is so reliant on you knowing everything that just happened in the DC universe over the past year and a half. Like, I cannot imagine going into this book not having read Infinite Crisis, not having read Justice League International, not having read Mike's pointing finger guns at himself. So, Mike, we're going to get your perspective.
Yes.
Because I, again, had not reread this since 2008, but had enough where I was just like, oh, that thing. And Jeff Johns is doing the thing where he's like writing clues for future stuff on Rip Hunter's blackboard, and it's all cryptic and shit, and I have to pay attention. And when I was like 19, this was everything, and I was like, I have to pay attention, I have to buy all the books, I have to find out what's happening. And then DC fucking ruined it by doing Flashpoint like 2 years later. Anyways, so we're seeing this guy trying to pick up the pieces of his life. He just saved the multiverse, whatever. He just wants to be a hero. And Rip Hunter, Time Master, not Time Lord, comes back and says, like, guess what, buddy? Buckle up. We gotta go save the time stream now.
Hell yeah.
And that's where we go. Mike, you don't know anything that any of this book was referencing. What are your thoughts?
Well, I will say really quick, we're going to do some full spoilers here for a book that's 15 years old. So just FYI. Going into this, I feel like either I was in a good mood or maybe something about Jeff Johns' writing just got me right into the mindset I needed to be in for this book. Knowing that so much of this was reliant on things that I have less than passing knowledge on. I know that 52 happened. I said this in the notes. I was the editor on a 13-part series for an old website I used to run where someone covered 4 issues of 52 for 13 weeks straight. I still could not tell you what happened in 52. And Kara, you've explained some extremely, I want to say gay stuff that happened in that book.
That was Countdown.
That was Countdown. Oh, sorry. Okay, never mind.
Because they did another one. They were like, hey, all these suckers bought our weekly book for a whole year. Let's do it again. And then they did Countdown.
No. Spoilers, they didn't stop. They kept doing it after the new 52.
Exactly. Okay. So going into this, I didn't really know anything. And I felt like Johns does a good job with 10,000 words per issue, kind of dumping what you need to know about this book on you. I feel like if you just came off of reading 52 and Infinite Crisis and all this stuff, you're just like, holy smokes, you are rehashing things that I read last week. Shut up. So I feel like you could be annoyed. But for a blind reader like myself, or going in blind like myself, I felt like it worked. I felt like you get who Booster Gold is from the get-go, not only because he keeps reminding you of how much a loser he isn't, and then it's slowly being shown that he is a loser, because that's just the dynamic of the book. It's very funny, and it felt so much like, again, a Doctor Who thing. It felt a lot like the Exiles book that I really love, and I know I recommended to you, even though maybe it wasn't as good as I remember, in that there is this idea of, hey, the multiverse is broken. We're going to go into these weirdo universes and then correct things because someone's trying to break stuff. And I thought it was fun. So while I think I was lost. There's a lot of things referenced that I just didn't get. And I kind of was able to roll with the punches. I'm a professional big 2 comic book reader. I know when to say, like, you know what? I don't give a shit what the editor's note says. We're just going to keep moving, guys. It worked. I think that this first volume really sold me, and I think there's some choice moments we can touch on, but overall I was into it, and I totally got it, even though I had no history with what they were really referencing in this book.
Mike, I want Danny's thoughts, but first I want to just say, if this book had editor notes, that would be the full page. Danny,
yes,
go.
Well, I don't think I was as well versed in the subject matter as Kara, but I was not as clueless as Mike. I was kind of in the middle because I read a lot of stuff. I read 52 at some point. I know I have them all in a box somewhere, so that means I must have read them.
That doesn't
Uh,
mean it. No, that doesn't.
No, no, no.
uh, I think one thing that it is very important to this story is that Ted Cord died right before 52 at the or before the final crisis, I guess, or
Ted
yeah,
Kord, the
final
Blue Beetle.
crisis. Ted
Hmm.
Cord, the Blue Beetle, yeah, who is Booster Gold's best friend. And as soon as I knew that was going to be a big part of the story, I was in because I loved those two guys. Like their friendship, their relationship, it is so good. Like it's so well done. They are probably the best friends in comics ever. Like out of any friendship, like in any publisher. To Mike's point, the first issue is very slow. Like it's like to its detriment if you are coming in with all the knowledge. So I was very like, oh, this is not gonna be very good. There's too many words. You're telling me everything that I already know, or at least all the big the big beats. But it got a lot better. I'm a big sucker for the slight changes in time causes major events to change. Like the butterfly effect with Ashton Kutcher. So that's what this book is all about. Like,
It's awesome. I
let's
love it.
let's move these things a little bit, and it's gonna cause all these things to like, change the way we know them. All that being driven by Booster Gold, who we get. I'm glad we get the intro page because I didn't know his full story. Like, I know he's from the future and he was kind of disgraced in his time, but I didn't know that it was like a football gambling scandal, which was interesting. He was shaving points off the games or
I
something. Like,
don't.
what
It's
is
so
like?
unnecessary.
Yeah,
They could have avoided an entire page of dumb prose if they would have just been like, I got into some bad deals and now I had to come to the past.
yeah.
No, the football game thing so doesn't matter. And you're
Sh-
telling me football still exists in its somewhat current form in the year 2442 or wherever he's from? I don't believe that for a second. The freaking Judge Dredd laser face thing that he had, it's so ridiculous. Anyways.
I do love that shaving points of a football game is like the most 80s plot ever.
Yes.
So I thought that was really funny. But yeah, and I think the art overall is very serviceable. It feels like superhero comics. It feels like what I would expect out of this. There's nothing that's too exciting other than the fact that they cram so many little Easter eggs. Every time Rip Hunter and their ship they are traveling through time and they get to see all these little timelines and you get like little Easter eggs. I can imagine Kara being in a room like that's from this thing and this is from that other book and like just
Hmm.
going through all this stuff in the background
I mean,
because that's what I was doing.
I didn't recognize everybody, but I referenced Gypsy and Aztec earlier for a reason.
Yeah. So
No,
yeah.
it was definitely like, once we got past that first expository issue, then it was like each issue was its own little adventure. And I do think the experience of reading this monthly might have been more delightful than reading it all in one go. But reading it all in one go, I'm kind of like, okay, what's the point? Are we just doing the self-referencing thing over and over and over again? I don't know. I'm just like really cynical about this one, but
Man, that's crazy. I actually found myself really, really liking this. I went into this again not knowing much, but like, it's so funny to read a book that is so up its own ass with continuity bullshit, and then as soon as you like relinquish that care of like I need to know all the continuity to get this book, there's like something weirdly freeing about diving into this book and going, I don't think I get any of this, but I know who Batman is. I know that that's Superman. Like it works because I feel like all of the little nudges and all the little references ultimately don't matter, and they're just there for like the diehard fans. And I feel like even if I continued reading this book, I don't know how much it would actually matter to if I didn't know all of the nitty gritty details, because this book, like I said, Jeff Johns likes to do 10,000 pages or 2,000 words per issue. He's going to expound upon you what's going on regardless. So for me, that really wasn't a bad thing. And maybe that's what they were going for. It was the new 52 guys, right? Isn't that what was happening?
I was getting like annoyed with myself for not remembering anything about Supernova. Like I saw the costume and I was like, damn, I used to know who you were. Why don't I know who you were? So it was like stuff like that where maybe it was like, I knew just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to actually like
Oh, sure,
enjoy
sure.
myself. Or maybe I should have been like Mike and just be like, it doesn't matter, it's fine. You know, the thing that I had an issue in this book that I really, really did not like, and one that I really, really did like. The one that I really, really did not like, one of these adventures, was I would love so much if DC could stop redoing the Killing Joke. Like, it was not funny the first time, and as any joke gets over repeated, it is not funny now. And just like continuously seeing Barbara Gordon getting shot by the Joker. Mercifully, they did not show the like sexual abuse component of that story, but like just the fact that we keep having to go back to Barbara Gordon got shot, like that's another thing that happened in the 80s. Like, can we just not keep going back to like, I understand this book sold very well for DC, but like, must we? Must we?
Yeah, because I think the point that we're trying to make of that being like an unchangeable
Solidified
event.
time.
Yeah, you could have done that with a lot of different
So
stories.
many other
Now,
things.
I will, Carol, I have to ask because this is in my notes, and as I was reading that issue, since you brought it up, Ted Kord and Babs. Hold on a sec. When is that a thing? Like,
yeah, they dated.
I.
How do you not know the dating history of Batgirl?
Well, because to me, Barbara, I don't know, maybe it's a New 52 thing that she feels she skews younger than, like, appropriately to be with Ted Kord. But maybe that was a New 52 thing where they shortened the timeline. Because Nightwing is younger. I mean, Nightwing is Robin, and I feel like they are age appropriate. But Ted Kord, I feel like he's more of Batman's age. And if you watch that Killing Joke movie, you know that's gross. So
yeah, they you know, timelines in the DC universe are malleable. So I think I think everyone just kind of did a big like, if you're not in the Teen Titans, you're all around the same age and it's fine.
Oh
like
boy,
that kind of thing for a while.
Okay.
You know, when nobody's really drawn with wrinkles on their face, you have to assume that everybody is in their mid-20s,
late 20s, early 30s. Yeah.
Like everyone is 30 in the DC universe forever unless you're a Teen Titan.
It's just Commissioner Gordon is the only adult in the DC, like full-on adult.
Right.
Which, you know, explains a lot about, you know, superheroes in general. Like, the solution is punching things. That's fine. Yeah. So the issue... Go on.
I was going to say, the only, I guess, redeeming thing about that Killing Joke issue is that when Joker takes those pictures and then Batman finds him later on, like, he understands. He's the one person that knows that Booster Gold is a hero because of what he was trying to do to stop that. I don't know that it doesn't make up for the fact that they brought that up again.
Graphically,
but I
showed
did like
her
that detail.
Spine being shot with blood spurting everywhere,
like Mortal Kombat style. Like,
can we not? Oh, so pivoting to the thing that I loved immensely. As I said, this is just like the parade of DC being really proud of themselves. And part of DC being really proud of themselves is that they will never, ever let the Western hero, anti-hero Jonah Hex die. Like, to the point where he had a bad movie made about him that I still haven't seen. Like,
Josh Brolin's in that, I think, right?
Yeah, and Megan Fox. So I should watch it because I love her, but like, you know,
we have to talk to Paul and get this on Movie Club. This would be insane.
Yes. So all right. So for those of you who don't know, Jonah Hex is like, I guess picture Two-Face, but in the West. Like, half of his face is just like melted away. He's got like one big old eyeball that is not biologically possible because there's no way for it to have tears and stay moisturized. But anyway, and Jonah Hex is an old West gunslinger, and every once in a while DC says, people still like Westerns. Let's trot out Jonah Hex. Like, Jonah Hex has also been on a Justice League Unlimited episode. Anyways, so there's an issue where, like, to save Superman, Booster Gold has to go back in time to save the life of the Doctor, who will one day birth Clark Kent, like Jonathan Kent's great-great-great-grandfather. Anyway, so... You know, so those are some interesting things they do with like hopping around the timeline. And anyway, it was just really like fun. Yeah, it was just like for reasons. Jonah Hex is here now, and he and
Mhm.
Booster Gold are in a drinking contest, and Booster Gold is dressed up like Woody from Toy Story because that's the only cowboy outfit he could find.
Right, because
And
Rip Hunter for some reason just has a whole closet full of costumes, but that's his cowboy outfit.
yeah, Doctor Who. It's the
Yeah,
Doctor. He's got
I
a whole
know.
He needs
closet.
it to blend in. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was delightful, and like my favorite panel in the whole entire trade paperback was in this issue where they're in the Wild West. So Booster Gold has a floating robot companion named Skeets, and Skeets is, I want you to envision like a little drone that looks like a tiny little like, just like a little like bullet with a little like, there's probably a little dude in there. It looks like a tiny spaceship. Skeets is a security droid from the 25th century that Booster Gold like took back in time with him, and they're best buds and they're great.
Mhm.
And Skeets, again, is a tiny, like, human hand sized floating bullet. Okay. And at one point in this Jonah Hex story, Skeets is riding a horse. Skeets
Mhm.
is holding with no hands somehow
Skeets-
the reins to a horse and floating above the saddle.
Right.
Tell me why.
Because if for those of you who aren't aware, Skeets can fly. Skeets has been flying around this entire comic, but for some reason, when Booster Gold gets a horse, so does Skeets. And I also laughed at that because there are multiple panels where just in the background, Skeets is like floating, holding the reins of a horse.
So if there was more of that and less of the continuity bullshit, this might
Right.
be one of my favorite books of all time. You know?
Yeah.
We should talk a little bit though about Dan Jurgens' art in this book. If only because I was thinking about it today, and like Dan Jurgens, for me, I think he's been around for a while. He created this character, right? He was the creator of Booster Gold. There's a little, if you read the trade through the DC Unlimited, Infinite Online, whatever the fuck it's called, he gives this breakdown about how there was this wacky guy who had this crazy idea for a character, and it ended up being Booster Gold, and that person was him. But like Jurgens' style, so he was working in the 80s and he was working in 2008, so like very long time at DC, but his style feels modern, but it feels very like house DC, right? And that's probably because of the time when he was working at DC, just his style was the house style. And there isn't so much a house style nowadays for DC or Marvel or anything, but I think when we look at comics, if you just look at the art, the way that things are inked, the way that they're kind of, the characters are kind of formed in their like overall body structure, you can kind of guess, is this DC or is this Marvel? And this book has a definitive DC feel to it that I really, really enjoyed. Like Booster Gold, I know it's clearly Dan Jurgens' baby, looks so good. Like as a superhero design, the way that he's drawn on panel with other characters, like I think Jurgens' Batman sucks in comparison to how well he drew Booster Gold, right? And I think there's a couple of pages that he does some justice for characters like that I never would have expected, like the Green Lantern character whose name escapes me right now, Guy Gardner. Absolute shithead Green Lantern, which I have a whole question about that we'll do in the post credits about how did Guy Gardner even become a Green Lantern? He's such a jerk. But Booster Gold looks so good in this, and I just wanted to like talk about a lot of the costuming in this volume, because I feel like overall Jurgens is so good at doing superhero costume bullshit where I think some artists may fall a little bit flatter. So what did you guys think about Jurgens' art in this?
I really liked it. I grabbed a lot of I grabbed a lot of screenshots from this. There's one where they talk about the first thing they have to correct, where Guy Gardner becomes the greatest Green Lantern, and there's just like a really cool panel of Gardner like with the Green Lantern power. And I'm like, man, like if he looked like this all the time, maybe I would believe that he's the greatest Green Lantern. Now we all know that's Kyle Renner. I won't get into that in this episode.
Hell yeah, it's Kyle Rayner.
Yeah, so I also love all the little details in the background. I grabbed one where in the issue with the flashes, where they pop in and the bar you see in the back is like Carmine's, and of course that's Carmine Infantino, creator of the Flash. So like there's a lot of little details in the book, like so many characters, so many designs.
Oh my god.
It is Yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing. He also draws a really cool mullet for the Rex guy.
I,
So
Danny. You just reminded me. I forgot that the Flashes run into the time sphere that they're
On the
flying
cosmic
around in
treadmill.
on their
in their treadmill.
On their
on
cosmic
their treadmill. Yeah.
Cosmic
Okay,
treadmill.
guys. Comic books are stupid, and I hate them. I can't believe that happened.
How do you
I can't. I
not
know.
know?
As soon I was like, "What the hell is going on?" The
Well-
first time they were on in panel, I was like, "What the hell are they on?" And then later, they're flying off on their cosmic treadmill, and I was like, "I wish that I could forget that existed again," because I knew that it had existed before, and I'd completely forgotten until that moment. And boy, does Dan Jurgens draw it well, but it's so stupid.
This is what I'm saying. DC won't let things die. You will always have to know about Barry Allen and his cosmic treadmill from now until the end of time, Mike.
I love the bit too, the way they set up, right? Like, I think Rip's like, quit distracting me. Like, you can't fly the ship. We're gonna crash against something. And then Booster's like, what are we gonna crash against here in the timeline? And then boom, they run into the Flashes with the cosmic treadmill in the
Record
next
scratch.
page, and you're
You're
like, oh my
probably
god.
wondering how I ended
Yeah.
up in this situation.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh man.
I also love the meet cute between Rose, the reporter, and I think his name is Danny, the great grandfather of Booster, who is just in his boxers because his costume got stolen.
So
Okay,
ridiculous.
so that's the point where I was like, man, this art sucks because these people don't look like people. Like, yes, it's a great superhero thing, but I was just like, I don't need all comic books to have like normal looking bodies and all things, but it would be nice if there was like some recognition that like this level of muscles and this level of defying of physics of various anatomies, like, can we just like find a nice middle ground where people have muscular definition but they're not like obviously
They're not
having
Hugh
some
Jackman in
kind
the
of
X-Men movies.
restrictive diet thing happening anyway.
Right.
So like that's the part where I was like, I don't know if I like this art, you guys. So you guys are saying, oh, this art is so great, it's such great superhero art, and it's just like it's like so mediocre. And I understand that it's not mediocre, but like watching it, I'm just like, yes, this is superhero comic book art. It's nothing great. I have many questions. There's this one thing where like that building off that meet cute, like later from the meet cute, where those two characters, Booster Gold's like great grandfather and the reporter, are like sitting on his couch, and she's just like, I'm lying about my appearance too.
Oh, yeah.
And she like takes out a blue contact lens to be like, I'm not a blue-eyed city reporter, I'm a brown-eyed country girl. And I was like, a man wrote this, a man edited this. Like,
have you read Jeff Johns before? Like, he doesn't understand how to write people that aren't like clones of himself. That's it. He only knows how to write white men. I'm sorry, but like,
oh my god.
I don't know.
So it's just like
this leads to like one of the questions that I have about this book, though, which is, as much as I enjoyed it, right? It's very much like a Jeff Johns book, and I feel like when I've read because Jeff Johns and who else? There's another person that worked on this, and I don't have the credits up in front of me right now, but still, it's very much a Jeff Johns book. So I was wondering, like, are there other Jeff Johns books that are this fun to read? Because I feel like every Jeff Johns book I've picked up, I've kind of just been like, oh my god, just with like over exposition. I think the thing that made this book work for me was it kind of is like overly sarcastic to the point of making fun of itself, which makes that endearing. But like, I think the only other thing that I've really liked by Jeff Johns is the one where the superhero villains have to save all the superheroes, and I can never remember the name of this book.
Forever Evil?
Forever Evil, thank you. Yes. And I don't even know if he wrote that, but nonetheless, have you guys read any other Jeff Johns books that you enjoyed it, I guess, in this same way, or that you enjoyed that maybe you didn't enjoy this one, but I just assumed everyone was going to like this one. So
yeah, I mean, it's that I don't think is a question that I know how to answer, because again, this was the moment when I was reading the most DC, and this is the moment where DC was like, Jeff Johns is the golden boy and he's writing everything. Like, I started, like, my first exposure to Jeff Johns was his run on Teen Titans, because that's when my entire personality revolved around the Teen Titans TV show.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean there are comics about this? And so those comics by Jeff Johns were the ones being published at the time. So like I just started reading those books, and then they gave him Green Lantern, and he was doing all of the like a lot of the Infinite Crisis like tie-in stuff. So he's kind of like probably the DC writer I've read the most, but I don't know if I would say that I have like thought of his work as work to recommend. It's just so ubiquitous that you are going to
Right.
read it at some point, but I'm not
Right.
like, oh my god, read this Jeff Johns story.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think like I may have been like I may be harshly judging Jeff Johns from just a handful of books, because I know he's done a huge body of work over at DC. Like I went to go to search DC's site for just his name, and there's like 1,000
Everything.
comics associated with his name, right?
He did everything.
Right. And so maybe I'm judging a little bit more, but I feel like the handful of books that I've tried have not been easy ones for me to get into. So I'm wondering, and maybe this YouTube maybe don't have the answer, but if anyone listening has suggestions, I'd love to hear other Jeff Johns book that I may be able to get into the same way this one was. Or maybe this was just like the exception, because like we all know I'm a big Marvel boy. I mostly read Marvel books. So like getting into DC, you've got to like slip me around the back alley door so that like I actually can get into this, versus like going like head on. I usually just get pushed back because of, again, the DC problem of not being able to let go of anything. And sometimes on the wrong day, I get really intimidated by that. And I just go, oh my God, if you wanted me to read 100 books before this, then why not make me, I don't know. It's a whole problem. It's yeah.
Okay. So here's my question then for the both of you, because the both of you have read much more Marvel than I have read.
Mm-hmm.
Does Marvel do this? Like, is Marvel this self-referential about everything they've ever done? Okay.
They are, but like with the exception, I feel like, of like maybe a handful of series, usually their references are things that just happen in the last couple of years, not like you have to have read this thing back from the 60s, or like remember, like here's a huge reference to stuff. I think you get that every once in a while, but it's, I feel like, not as like all of this continuity can be swept into this tiny ball that takes place and is important and is foundational for this character's issue. So
Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I think Marvel, whenever they reboot something or whatever, like DC has their crises, right? So, or however you want to say, however you say that, and those kind of keep resetting things, but that doesn't mean they're erased. Marvel, I feel like every time something big happens, it kind of does get erased. Like,
yeah,
they don't. I think the only thing that I can think of is that's as referential as this is the upcoming Ultimate Universe stuff.
that's gonna be a mess.
And that's about it. Like, Marvel really just like keeps going forward. Like, sometimes they'll talk about events that happen, like Mike said, and they'll bring back storylines, especially like Phoenix stuff, or like X-Men. Like, Kang does that a lot just because of his time stuff. But yeah, nothing at this level of like of DC where they're just like, everything crisis. Let's write it again, but even better, or not better.
Really quick to interrupt. Folks in the chat are recommending Green Lantern as like a run to maybe read for Jeff Johns, and Zach, who's proof listening today, says his Aquaman run was good. So like you said, Kara, he's touched everything. So basically, you could throw a character name by Jeff Johns, but. I'm a little hesitant
to recommend Green Lantern or Flash because I don't remember all the artists in that, and a big part of that run was an artist that Mike already kind of mentioned earlier. That's problematic. So I've read those, but I don't recommend people go back and read them again.
Here's the thing. Oh, go ahead, Kara.
No, go on, because I'm about to pivot real hard.
My last thing about that is like it's tough because reading a book by a creator who is garbage now but wasn't garbage then is like this weird line of like separating the artist, like at least not publicly, right? There's some Captain America runs and covers and books that I really, really liked who it was done by a person who is not so great, very in like the last 20 years. So like that's also out there. But anyways, let's hard pivot and get away from this so we can wrap up today's discussion. So Kara, go ahead.
Pivot. That relates to both this book that we're talking about and Jeff Johns in general. You bringing up his work on Green Lantern. You have to remember that this is the era of there were maybe like 4, 5, maybe even 6 Green Lantern titles going on at the same time, because this is when all of a sudden there wasn't just Green Lanterns. This is where you started getting Red Lanterns and Blue Lanterns and Indigo Lanterns and Yellow Lanterns and just so
I got those rings somewhere at my house.
right. But I'm talking, but talk about dumb comic book shit like the Cosmic Treadmill, and then Jeff Johns is like, I'm just gonna give every color of the rainbow a Green Lantern ring, and it was just like just this delightful obsession with color as like a source of power in the DC universe, highlighted in the whole like Booster Gold Sinestro fight in this series, where Skeets is like, use your yellow knee, because he's a Green Lantern, so his weakness is the color yellow. And I had totally forgotten about that, but I was like, yes, that's like a canon. Like, the color yellow is a weakness to the Green Lantern power rings. Like, this is so dumb.
It's so dumb, but it's so entertaining to read. I feel like that whole scene was executed in such a fun way where, like, clearly Johns really, really, really wants to write Sinestro a certain way. And he gets to do that through the guise of Booster Gold. And then he basically puts this humongous seed into the ground for eventual growth that will be Blackest Night, right? Because he even says it in this run. Oh, the Blackest Night thing hasn't happened yet. Sinestro is going to get his Sinestro core, right? Which is not a new thing, but like it becomes the yellow rings, right? And like he laid a bunch of groundwork here that I was like, I know enough to be like, you son of a bitch, what are you doing in this Booster Gold
That's
book?
why we're reading the little like blackboards in Rip Hunter's time sphere with their scribbles on them. I'm like, God damn it, Jeff Johns.
I would say I did not read those.
Yeah.
I was not reading any of that stuff.
I remember they were important, Danny. I was 19 on the floor of my dorm room trying to decipher this shit.
That's amazing.
I want to mention my favorite thing in this book is that we do get Ted Kord back, because I feel like that was the heart of this. Well, the best part about this book is the heart of it, and that's Booster Gold trying to get his friend back and trying to prove that there are some things that can be changed. And I love that all the other Blue Beetles show up. Like, we get Dan Garrett, we get Jaime Reyes, we get the unknown one from the future at this time, and they rescue Ted Kord and they undo that stupid 80-page crisis one shot that kills Ted Kord. So that was my favorite thing, because I love Ted Kord. Like I said, and then from this, like, the storyline continues with both of them, right? I put a screenshot on the document where you can see the first 12 issues that really complete this arc, because this arc is only halfway done. There's a cabal of villains that are kind of revealed towards the last few issues, that are they're very important to, like, this is who he's really going to have to take down or whatever. So,
right.
I also wanted to ask, because I'm pretty sure Karen knows, but Mike, are you going to continue to read the next 6?
Well, if it's only six more,
big thing. There's a big thing, but it's a big spoiler, and I don't know if you know. But
Danny, here's the thing. I don't care if you spoil it. It's fine.
Okay.
I do. I don't remember. I don't remember.
It's about Rip Hunter.
Ooh.
But I'm sure you know who Rip Hunter really, like, they use those names so that people don't know their real names and they can't erase them from the timeline. So in issue 12 of this series, the 1 billion issue or 1 million issue that they did all across DC, they reveal who he truly is and his connection to everything. But I don't want to say it if you guys...
You know what? Now you've sparked interest.
Now I have
must
to read it.
this.
Now I have to read it.
Okay, great.
Nobody be a jerk in the chat.
This is why I have the digital subscription series.
Go read it. It's only another 6 issues, and then you find out what's going on. So.
Awesome. Oh my God. Thank you, Danny.
Well, Danny, thank you for that. Keith, I want to say we're going to wrap up here unless you guys had any final comments. But Keith, thank you so much for commissioning this episode and introducing me to Booster Gold. I always want to say Blue Beetle when I think Booster Gold, and I don't know why. It's probably because they're buds.
Because they're soulmates.
I have a really fun question to ask after we wrap up here about this. So, if you're not listening live, you should always come listen to us live every Sunday, 1 p.m. Unless we're doing a Twitch episode, then we're on twitch.tv/IRCB podcast at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. But I guess,
I have a
Next
final
week's
thought.
episode. Final thought, please.
Final thought. Reading this, the start of this volume, where you kind of get the overview of Booster Gold wanting to like self-promote, and Skeet's like recording footage of him self-promoting. This is 2008. This is pre-social media taking over our lives.
Right.
This is pre-TikTok, Twitter being everywhere, Instagram being ubiquitous. We were just starting to be on Facebook. Can you imagine Booster Gold now? Like his TikTok account.
Well,
he's a 6-hour debate podcast is what he is.
Kara, if you want to know what that would be like, you can read the Blue and Gold series that recently came out, 8 issues, and it starts with like that. They talk about him being a social media presence, and he tries to be an influence superhero. So there's more stuff for you to read after.
God. Okay.
Oh man.
That's
I
me.
guess
I'm done.
with that, we are going to wrap up this week's episode. Again, thank you, Keith, for this. This is a blast. Next week's show is going to be we're going to be recording at a different time and place, despite what I just said. October 28th, we're going to be recording for you freaks who want to listen live. I don't know why I wrote that in the notes. It's a Halloween special. It's going to be me and Brian and Zach. Super scary comics. Are those even real? We're going to answer if there's truly any horror comic books out there, as we're going to be trying to bring our scariest to the table. As always, Infinity Shred is the best band in the universe. They do want of our music. If you want to get access to stuff that's like very exclusive and super cool, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/IRCB podcast to commission episodes, as well as listen to shows like the IRCB Movie Club, Better Batmobile, Giant Days of Our Lives, so much more. It's really, really fun. That's patreon.com/IRCB podcast. And if you want, you can follow for free just to get updates. Zander is in the hatch pressing the button. I don't know if that reference is worth me even saying it. I never watched Lost, but that's what Zander's up to. I want to say thank you again to Kara and Danny and Zach for proof listening. Thank you to everyone listening live and watching live on Twitch. This is such a blast. I love doing these episodes. So until next time, comics are good, and so are you.